Hello there, everyone. How you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/AskReddit, where Reddit has the question: people who quit their jobs on the first day. What was your "I'm outta here" moment? If you enjoy the answers I read to you, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts below, and maybe check out my Reddit story playlist in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Not technically my first day, but my second day. When I was 20 or so, I got hired to be a temporary floor member for Forever 21 during the holiday season. My training started a week before Black Friday, so the store was already kind of in chaos. On my first day of training, I walked in and the floor manager gave all the new hires a tour, showing us the facility and layout of the store. After this, I was assigned to a veteran floor member to shadow and get an idea of what my job was and what my duties would be. As soon as I was assigned, the manager dipped, never to be seen again. An hour and a half into my shift, my shadowee got an emergency family call and had to take off for a week. When this happened, I found some other floor manager and explained the situation and asked them who else I should shadow. The manager's response was, "Just do what you can by yourself. You'll be fine. Everyone else is busy. Figured it'll be okay. I'll try." I don't know if any of you have shopped in the women's sections of Forever 21, but during seasonal sales, they'll have multiple articles of clothing that look almost exactly the same, but with slight differences. Like a white cardigan with 4 buttons that looked literally the same as a white cardigan with 5 buttons. The best part was these different items were often placed in completely separate parts of the store, and it was the job of the dressing room to return the unpurchased items to the correct section, so the employees could put them back on the shelves. Well, these employees freaking sucked, and I didn't know if they were a part of my section or not, so I'd spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to find where they go, before realizing, wait, this isn't even my section. I've checked literally every rack, so I put it back on the sorting rack and moved to the next item. More than 50% of the stuff I was told to reshelf wasn't even to my section. I just did as best I could and got ready for my next miserable day. The next day I come in and the store manager pulls me to her office and tells me how slow I was the day before, and if I want to keep working here I need to be very fast. I explained my lack of training and unfamiliarity with the store, and she told me if I didn't know where the clothes were in sections, I should come in my free time and memorize where stuff was at. I spent the rest of my shift putting clothes in random places and then never came back for a third shift. Screw that place and their management. My first internship was a Brazilian teen detention center. Think a prison, but Brazilian law has some distinctions between crimes committed while as an adult or as a teenager. Teens go through socio-educational measures. I was walking through a courtyard with my supervisor when some doctors came running, flailing their arms and screaming, while officers running from the opposite direction. I get pulled aside by my supervisor, who just tells me to run back to our office. These teens as young as 12 had escaped their block. A few minutes later, an officer comes knocking on the doors of the officers and yelling for everyone to run outside because a fire had broken out. Some of the teens had set mattresses on fire in their cells. I didn't really nope out. My teacher did. She hadn't even been there that day. So I was forced by the university to choose another place to intern at. Oh well. Wasn't exactly the first day, but I didn't show up after the second shift. It was a rather popular cafe chain in my country. I was hired to work in the kitchen as a cook along with another senior cook. Let's put aside the fact that I had zero cooking knowledge whatsoever. The senior cook was leaving the kitchen every 5 minutes to smoke. So there I am, alone in the kitchen. Orders are printing fast, and I'm standing there, not sure what to do at first, and the waitress comes over yelling at me to cook stuff I don't have any business cooking. Definitely not on my own. Later on, the senior cook told me they had at least 2 rats running around the kitchen. Showed me they pooped on a plate. I never came back, and I'm glad that place got shut down. Summer job, working for a landscape architect. Got to the job site, and he asked me to dig a hole in some rocky dirt. I asked for a shovel. He didn't have one. I asked for a hand spade. He didn't have one. He told me to dig the hole with my bare hands, and then he drove off to another site, leaving me completely alone. I dug for a little bit, said screw this after that, and left. Had the job specified that I needed to supply my own tools, I could have, but it didn't, and I wasn't going to work for somebody that expected folks to dig through hard, rocky soil with their bare hands. I worked in a hotel for a day. Nobody told me where anything was, and I got chewed out for it. Guests were enjoying their meals, told me to pay no mind, that I was doing a good job, and that my boss is a dickhead. I told the manager that I was quitting and wouldn't be there for the next shift. I arrived the next day, returning a work uniform, and my supervisor approached me and yelled at me for being late. I told her I already quit, but if I was working technically, I was 5 hours early for my shift. Absolute nutcases. I got a job at Build-A-Bear knockoff at the end of a mall that wasn't very busy. My interview with the owners was interesting. They were an older couple who said they wanted to open a Chick-fil-A, but you need about $1 million to do that. My first day, one other girl was working, and she didn't really talk to me. I had basically no training, and she disappeared into the back. I was standing at the register area, which was underneath a giant storybook mushroom. A mother and her young son walk in and start to look at the bearskin options. I greeted them and left them to look around. They ended up leaving after a couple minutes, and my coworker reappeared from the back with a cordless phone and handed it to me. It was my boss. He told me that when a customer walks in, he wants me to come out from under the mushroom to them. Come out from the mushroom. After he finished speaking to me, I hung up and went to my coworker and asked about the phone call. She said this place has cameras set up and the owners watched from their house and call in a lot. I did not come back to work after that day. You could say there was not much room for improvement there. Fast food chain. I was 17. I found out during training that the place had been robbed 3 times in the past month, and one employee was seriously injured. Honestly, not worth the $5 an hour, so I left. I applied for a job at my longtime favorite restaurant. I celebrated my birthday there every year. The owner asks me to come in for basically a tryout. As I communicated, I was looking at other job possibilities. I come in and they just stick me on dishwashing for an hour. No biggie. And then their dishwasher doesn't show up. So the kitchen manager asked me to stay one for their lunch rush. Says I'll get paid for the hours I do. The kitchen staff was nice, so I was happy to help out, even though I figured I'd be taking a different job. I fill out a time card at the end of the shift and tell the manager I probably wouldn't be back. He understands and thanks me for the help. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and he tells me to email the owner after I ask him if I should pick up my measly paycheck. I do, and she tells me to frick off over text. Tells me it was staging and that she told me she wouldn't be paid. I respond that I understand, but I stayed an extra 3 hours, which I was told I'd be paid for. Then she stops responding. I decide I want to be petty over the $40, so I get the state labor department involved. The dude goes in there and makes her pay me for the hours, including the first staging hour. Couple weeks later, I got my $40 and I never went back to that restaurant. My very first job was at a little drive-in restaurant close to my high school. I showed up to work there the first day. The little lady said I had to pay her $50 for training. She showed me around the place and said that my pay would be $4.50 an hour as a car hop. This was in 2010, and all the tips I made went to a bucket with all the other girls' tips. And at the end of the night, she counted up tips, kept 20% for herself, and split the rest up evenly among every employee. Also, part of our job was 1 day a week. We had to spend 4 hours cleaning her house. It really seemed super shady. I literally left after listening to her go over all these rules. My dad was angry until I explained, and another girl confirmed, and my dad agreed I did the right thing. I went to an Italian restaurant for my first day of work, and I got 3 red flags on the very first day. Number 1, the manager said he had lots of hours for me, and getting shifts would be no problem. Every other employee told me they were struggling for hours, and that they had no idea why they hired me. Everyone said the manager was a dick, even the customers. It was my first day there, and I actually had to teach the woman training me how to do 1 or 2 things. I just left. It wasn't worth it. I was hired at a chain restaurant to be a hostess. I was so excited because my last job was washing dishes, and because of my eczema, I had to quit. It was too painful to do that job. So I arrived at my new job, dressed to be a hostess, and those MFers took me back to the kitchen to do dishes, because the dishwasher just quit. I noped out of there real fast. Salesman for Kirby vacuums. Can I get a poyo in the comments below? First sale was to be a single elderly woman who was supporting her son in the hospital. They got us in the door by offering a free carpet clean as a demonstration. The supervisor training me pushed and pushed to make the sale, until this woman was in tears. Just as she was about to sign the paperwork, I asked her if she actually wanted the vacuum, and she said it was lovely, but she couldn't afford it. I took the paperwork away from her and said not to worry. Outside, I told the supervisor I quit, to which he replied I would have been fired anyway. No love lost. I hung around for half an hour playing on my phone to make sure the supervisor left, because he was a real piece of work. That poor old lady. I interviewed for a professional marketing assistant. I got the job straight away. I was under the impression I would be an assistant to the man I was interviewed by. When I showed up for my first day, the same waiting room I was in the previous day was full of people. I quickly learned that we were all hired, and that I would be a door-to-door salesperson selling some pretty useless stuff. I spent my entire day inside a Starbucks applying for other jobs and went home. I got paid, but I never went back. I technically quit before my first day. I got hired at a well-known gift store. I was hired with the understanding that I would work Saturdays, Sundays, and a grand total of 8 hours a week. So 2 4-hour shifts, also at minimum wage. Not a problem with me. I've done that before. I would just pick up a part-time job for the rest of the week. Nope, apparently that wasn't allowed. The manager thought that was a horrible thing and disrespectful to her. I should only work for them and only them, and I should have better control over my money if I can't survive on $64 a week before taxes. Yeah, I didn't show up, 'cause screw that noise. She called angry that I wouldn't show up to such an opportunity. Jeez. I was a cashier at this cafeteria for a large company in my town. The people that worked there at the company would put their tips in a bucket, and the people made a lot of money, so there was like tens and twenties. The manager of the cafe wouldn't let me have any of the tips because she said that cashiers couldn't be trusted. So she would just tip the money to a church in El Paso. I immediately knew that was a load of BS and I never went back. It's also illegal, I think, to collect money for one thing, but to do something else with it without disclosing who or what it's for. That is indeed, in fact, illegal. That's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts or stories down below. And maybe check out my Reddit playlist in the description below. Without further ado, I will see you all next time.